Hey
My God.
guys, it's two guys T&D here again. That was a quick pressing the broadcast button.
He's totally caught me
Today,
off guard there, Harry.
yeah, it caught me off guard as well. Today we're going to talk a little bit about. I think I've got myself in a little roadblock doing it by myself for the most part, so it'd be good to get some creative juices flowing with Lionel. So I'm getting tangled up in my own cables here. So I may have told you this, but I have 3 ideas for classes. 2 that I've worked. 1 I've sort of left for the moment until I figure something really cool out. I've got the scrapper, which is your sort of with a bit of building and mixed in. I've got a hacker that'll probably be renamed. And that's your sort of your rogue, your utility.
Yeah.
And then you've got your scion or your psycho, however you want to say it, which is your sort of magic class.
Yep.
So I want that sort of trinity. So I think the one that I'm struggling with the most is the psycho. Like, how do you make a new magic class that still feels like D&D but is different? It's I'm trying to at the moment I've borrowed the sort of setup from the cleric,
Yeah.
and I've sort of translated psychic abilities into the cleric sort of layout, but I'm not sure it works.
Well, see, so the thing is, I don't think in this day and age anything is revolutionary or anything is really new, in the sense that it's actually borrowing from something.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, sci-fi, sci-fantasy, cyberpunk, fantasy. It's all been done for so long, and as it's gotten more and more popular, not only in like tabletop role-playing games, but just in like fiction, like the books and media. When you look at Bright, that just came out not that long ago, but you look at the popularity of those sorts of movies and TV shows. I mean, I don't think anything is really new. So what I typically do is like I look at like books, comic books. I'm sorry, they're not called comic books anymore. What are they called? They're called graphic novels. I look at media. I look at tabletop games that are already out there, and I say, well, what is it? What is something I like? And I guess my first question for you, Harry, is it truly more magic or is it more of something? I can't remember I saw this movie one time, and what it was is that people had this like thing that was in their brain. It was like an extra piece, but it wasn't like brain matter. It was like a crystal or something, and it was embedded in their brain. And when you had that, you had this ESP, or some sort of telekinetic power. So are you thinking, is this something like, can someone learn it, or is it you're born with it and that's
so?
That?
I think I'm flexible with how that goes at the moment. At the moment, it's I've got it so that you're kind of born with it, like 1 in a million kind of thing. The flexible, maybe it could be some implant in the back of the head or something that makes you have, these abilities, or some genetic.
So you're building this off of like a 5e platform. So it's like level 3 that have like an archetype that you would go to.
Yeah. At the moment, it's a separate class. I was assuming that we were born with it, but I haven't really put all that much thought in. I just kind of want to get it,
Because what I'm thinking when you were talking is that you have this archetype that you do have someone that, like, maybe everyone, when you first enter the class in those first couple of levels, you're kind of developing, maybe you have this raw talent, like, and that's what's needed, but then it can be augmented in certain ways, and that's when you could maybe have an archetype that has an implant. Then you have an archetype that it's not an implant or something, but maybe it is more of you refining or tapping into that natural raw talent that you have and making it more effective.
Yeah.
Um, I like the idea of moving away from magic like D&D magic. Like I sit there and I wave my hands and I go Ukata Theya, and all of a sudden this big ball of huge fire just erupts.
Yeah.
I like the idea of magic happening more along when you think of like Lord of the Rings and that fight on the top of the tower between Gandalf and Sauron, and they're doing stuff. They're manipulating energies, but you can't see anything. To
Yeah,
us,
I pretty much all of them but one is like that. I've got sort of, for the moment, I've got 5 archetypes, 5 psychic disciplines, however you want to call them.
Mhm.
Telekinesis, the classic throwing stuff about. Telepathy. Not sure how to name this one for the moment. It's just called chronopathy or chronopathy, or it's precognition and retrocognition. So seeing into the future and the past. Not so much manipulating time, just seeing backwards and forwards. And then I've also got biopsionics. So that's just sort of a bit of healing in there. Maybe bolstering your strength or bolstering your speed, whatever. And then I've also got electrokinesis, which is manipulating. But it's kind of difficult to not take from that magic portion of D&D. I'm trying to sort of stay away from it, but use it still to
So let them do all the heavy lifting for you.
Make it.
So you look through the spell list, right? You find the spells you like, and then
That's exactly what I've done.
Write them up differently so that maybe it's not quite so fantastical in the sense of magic. And I really like that you went with a divination build, because I think most people would naturally kind of immediately go right to the wizard or the arcane build. But I really like that you went with a divination type, because I think you could still do some really cool stuff with that. I think of things like what's the one spirit guardian, where you get the spirits that are whipping all around you. But I think of like someone in Spire, it wouldn't necessarily be spirits whipping around them. Maybe it would be the force of their mind that is whipping, and it's putting these energies out and around them. Yeah.
I'll give you an example of one idea that I had is for, telekinesis. I had, at first level, you gain game terms, you gain unarmored defense. And I imagine that as you're using the power of your mind to sort of deflect blows away and deflect bullets as they approach you, kind of thing, while still dodging out the way to sort of keep you from harm, just using the power of your mind alone. I thought that was an interesting way of gaining such a normal thing.
And it may be one of those things, as that certain character path gets stronger, you get to the point where you could actually stop things. Like if someone fires a bullet at you, you can actually stop it in midair. I think of Kylo Ren. There's that, but that's dodging them. But Kylo Ren, when someone fires that laser pistol at him, and he stops it and he holds it there. Now he can't hold it there indefinitely, but he can hold it long enough to have his little dialogue or his little monologue step aside. It goes flying past. I mean, that's cool. That would be cool.
Definitely.
No, it'd be good too. Is like a techno.
Well, that's kind of how I envisioned the electrokinesis archetype to sort of go down. Is manipulating sort of electricity within machines. Like I had a cantrip where you supercharge or cause a equipment to overload and zap somebody next to it. Is like a simple cantrip where you're using the environment to do things.
I think of a cantrip like Shocking Grasp, and that being
another one I stuck in there.
But not a Shocking Grasp, it causes damage to the body, but maybe it's an EMP.
Yeah,
like it sends out this EMP pulse, boom, and it will short circuit any equipment that character's carrying, another character's carrying on them, or an NPC's carrying on them until the start of the other player's next turn. That would be really cool. So it's not so overpowered that at like a cantrip level, but it's great enough that all of a sudden that phase pistol or whatever I have in there isn't working, isn't functioning because, or that scanner that I have isn't working. Yeah, that's really cool.
I had.
So Harry, forgive me, but it seems like you actually have already got a lot of this.
I've got a lot down, but it just didn't feel right. If you get what I mean. I was sort of going through like, this just doesn't quite, get what I want. For the moment, I've just copied the cleric stuff, skinned it,
This is what I think you need to do. You just gotta pull the trigger, and I'm gonna use examples like Marquise Hardis, stereotypical Strider, and Jarl DM, Lloyd Collins, right? They're developing their own kind of like systems and whatnot. What you got to do, Harry, is let's get some play tests going in it, and then you'll know, because you could use a lot of theory and develop a lot of this stuff. Start it off easy. Let's do some level 1 play testing of some classes, and I wouldn't limit it to maybe 1 or 2 classes. Let's do some play tests, some one shots. We can easily find the people to do it.
Yeah,
let's test it out.
I've got, I could probably do. I just need to finish the stuff, and I need to make the telepathy tree a little bit more interesting. Because I don't think don't really get much at level 1.
Well,
other than
maybe
sort of
3.
Thing.
I was thinking that after. Maybe like cap it off at 3. You could do a nice, some nice stress testing of it. Maybe grab 1 class.
Or
1 or 2 classes maybe.
I think the Scion and the Scrapper.
Yep.
Do the. I think I've called it Bit Freak, something like that for the hacker. I'm not sure where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
So I'll leave that one out of it.
I don't know if that's I don't know if this one's been used before, but a spiker or something like that. I don't know if that's. I can't remember if I've heard that in another game. I mean, there's so many great games out there that are tech driven, and they always have like a type of hacker class. Yeah,
there's one especially, and I mean, I haven't really. I don't know. I read the rules and everything, but I haven't had it go.
Yes, I read the rules too.
I don't know how I don't know how it plays out in reality, but
yeah, everybody that I've talked with, they like the premise behind Shadowrun, and I know this is off topic, but the rules, they always complain about the rules. So
it's quite clunky.
Yeah, it is.
It's not as sort of smooth as 5e.
Yep. The simplicity of 5e is so nice. And the thing is, I know people say like, and maybe there are better systems out there that you can bring over and do other things.
Yeah, well, what was it? Genesis, the one that just came out. Basically, I could just take Spire, the setting, and run it in Genesis, no problem, because it has hacking, it has psionics, it has all of that.
See, I don't who was the publisher for Genesis?
Is it Fantasy Flight? The same people that did Star Wars.
Okay, yeah, Fantasy Flight Gaming. Seems like all they did was just hacked GURPS.
It's the same system as Star Wars. Just made generic.
But that's what I'm saying. That's all GURPS is. I mean, literally GURPS. You just decide on your tech level, and you can do anything you can do. If you want to be a psionicist or someone that's a hacker, if you wanted to do like a Shadowrun type setting, boom, that's where you'd go. I don't know enough about it. I did see a lot of conversation or talking about it, but I mean, I just don't have the time or even the capital right now to dive into yet another system.
It's also having to get the new dice as well, because they're ones with pictures on rather than numbers.
Yeah.
I think I think there's a table in there that translates the pictures and numbers.
Sometimes you can translate. Like it's same with Fate. You know, you can use a
Yeah.
D6 and instead of getting a fudge dice. But you know, I don't know about you, but I always like to have the dice for the system I'm playing rather than trying to say,
Yeah, well, it's
okay,
too.
wait a second.
It slows down everything. Oh, I've got to look at the table. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure after a while you get used to it. But anyways, going back to Spire, that's what I would say. Let's
just
play
get it
test
out there. It's basically, you know, basically a cleric at the moment, but that's fine. Just chuck it out there, see what happens.
Yeah, I know for a fact I could probably find 3 or 4 players like within an hour that would be willing to play test it.
Yeah. So here's one thing for you. Would you rather? Does this which sounds cooler? Having separate sort of enclosed, almost like an enclosed class. Each type of psychic is its own separate thing. And then just draw from all of the 5 different disciplines. I'm really struggling to decide between that.
What I would do if it were me is I would have one class, but at level 3, they would be able to branch out. But much like a cleric, you know how they choose a divination that they focus on, right?
1, actually.
So you pick a divination, and that gives you some advantage. But you can still have access to all the other things. You may not be able to do some of it as well as another. Like if you think of like a storm cleric, you know, they're really good at certain spells. Like they'll have certain things that maybe they're always ready to do. That doesn't work against it. Are you planning on using like spell slots type thing for their powers?
I'm using spell points.
Spell points, like the alternate rule. Yeah,
there's the one in the DMG, the spell point system, and which I'm just going to use at the moment. I think it fits better to use points than a slot.
Yep. No, I agree.
I'd quite like to have a system a bit like Harbinger, but I was actually working on something really similarly to Harbinger, but Harbinger beat me to it. But mine's a little bit different and a lot more harsh. But that's just me mainly. But so I can find it. My Google Docs is an absolute mess. Fantasy focus, but I can just change a few things. But yeah, it worked out actually surprisingly similar, but a lot more sort of calculation along with it. So I actually preferred the Harbinger way. But I might, add something like that in the future.
Yeah,
because I feel like I want the sort of Stranger Things feel with with the bleeding nose and the almost killing yourself trying to use these powers.
Right, like so you get like almost like they use astrofade, some sort of thing that when you
so maybe you might use hit points or something like that, or
I think attack against a certain ability is always great, like whether it's Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, whatever.
Oh yeah, these are a Constitution caster as well. The con is there.
So I think that would be the test against. That's what they'd be testing against is their con. If they pass their test, they can push themselves beyond that limit and go, and then they can get the effect. But then they maybe have to roll on a table, similar to how the guys.
Yeah, the way I built it in my sort of thing was, you'd roll against your time you roll. It's the DC is just slightly bit higher, and then it gets higher and higher and higher.
Yeah. Scales. Yeah, I like that.
That's how I built it. I think with Harbinger, they'd sort of you're just rolling on a different table as opposed to sort of increasing the difficulty of the roll.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, and what also would be nice too is if it increased the probability of that catastrophic event.
Yeah, I had a
your head just goes pop.
I think the guys, Harbinger has separate tables. What I'd done it as was a D100 table.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it was going to be slightly less than that. So you roll a D20 and add the number of, I think I'd done it as sort of corruption points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it gets to a point. It gets to a point that at a certain point you're done. It doesn't matter what you roll. By the time you add what you need to roll, boom, you're done. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
it's kind of like It's kind of like critical hits in Warhammer. If after you take a certain amount of damage, you're done. Like I think if you're like put like 7 or 8 under, you're done, because anything you roll is going to be so devastating. You're not going to survive it.
Yeah,
there's just no way. I like that. That's really good, because then it really challenges a player playing that character to say, am I going to do it? Am I going to push myself beyond this?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's like Lloyd and Philip did in our game today. They were trying to charge up these crystals, and they were both already one was at his fade limit and the other one's 1 away. And they didn't know how much Astra Fade they were going to take. They ended up taking 6 after they were done, because they shared the burden. And that's like the second to last table. And I'm like, oh shit, they're going to pop like a blown battery. But thankfully they rolled well. But I mean, I like that, but they still did it. I just dig that. I just love that sort of thing. And I guess it depends too, Harry, like what kind of a feel are you trying to get with your game? And when I say feel, I mean, I'm not like overall feel. Like, are you going for like that Pathfinder, that Burning Wheel feel, where manipulation of mechanic is really important? When you do that, you develop a really, I think, interesting character that is doing great things. Or are you looking for more of a story feel, where you really want the focus of the players to be on the story and the game master's focus? It's like kind of like a Cypher type system where you're not.
Yeah, well, I think going for the story is important to me, but I always like having that bit of crunch to add to it.
So somewhere in between that, then. Cypher is like so not really very crunchy. That's why it's not really one of my favorites, because of that
balance for me between Pathfinder and something else like Stars Without Number, which isn't very crunchy.
Awesome.
I'm trying to think. So, do you want to just like make up some interesting powers?
Yeah,
just like spitball some ideas. Hold on, I might have some written down somewhere already. Oh yeah, big old list. So, which of those 5 interests you the most?
I think. Let me just shut my freaking phone off here. I think the one that probably interests me the most is probably the telekinetic. I've always really dug that. I think that's so cool that someone has, within the power of their mind, can make things happen. Whether that's I think of you had talked about like I think you said Firestarter, or you said Stranger Things, but I think of like Stephen King's Firestarter. So her father in that story could do that. And like, I hand you money and I said, and the guy's like, oh no, that's $20. And I'm like, what do you mean? I just gave you a 50 and I use my power. And he looks down at the bill and it's a $50 bill. I love that.
That's telepathy, but
is it?
Well, yeah, it's.
Oh yeah. Something it would be, because you'd be creeping inside a guy's mind.
Yeah, it's creeping his mind.
Yeah. Okay.
Sort of extrapolating a bit with telepathy. I think it's really just reading thoughts, but I want it to be changing thoughts as well.
When I think of like effects that charm or influence people, I think that you could take those and easily morph those into telepathy. So telekinetics would be more of like moving stuff.
It's moving, pushing, pulling objects,
like like putting up a force barrier, putting up a shield around themselves. Yes, right.
Yeah, I actually have kinetic shield. Written down as one of my things.
There was in first edition. There was a psionic ability called, I think it was a telekinetic blade or something like that. And literally you could make your body as hard as a weapon. So literally I could use my hand like a sword and I could chop it across a guy's neck and it would like a great sword. That is so that'd be something, I think, if we're just spitballing stuff, something that would allow you to
something into the biosonics.
Yeah,
making your hand really hard or whatever.
Well, I think it would fit in both. I think it would just be different in both. because what would happen as a someone with telekinetics is I would be moving the air and stuff, not necessarily my hand, or maybe it is my hand. Maybe I'm moving the cells and stuff in my hand to then reform them. So for that briefest of second, it has the consistency of steel. Or maybe I'm moving the air around my hand to make it that way. The same way you would do it for the shield, but now using it as a more offensive way. Obviously I think of things like fly. I think of things.
That's a later power, definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. I think of things like, when what is that, Misty Step? I think of that as something that maybe not in the same fashion as it is, but it'd be like like fly is something they could do for longer periods of time. Misty Step was something they could do maybe in a short burst.
Yeah, I've thought about sort of teleportation. It's a difficult one to actually throw in there, especially with fly as well. They're both very sort of, in the hands of players, really, really, really good and powerful.
So let me tell you why, how I would, just on that one. So what it is for the briefest of seconds, what they're actually doing is slowing down things around them. So they're not actually like in Dungeons and Dragons, like poofing out and poofing back. So they're actually able to move
just moving
in that
really fast.
Short space of time. They're just moving so fast. But I mean, I guess one of the things I'd be afraid of is players abusing that by saying, well, geez, if I could slow stuff down, why can't I just go over there and stab the guy 3 times with my knife? And I think so. So I think that would probably take some. And that's why I think we just play test it, see how those things would go.
So I've got things like airing open walls with your mind. Like, I kind of want to see how pushing and pulling actual creatures works within the rules of the game. It might be quite strong.
Yeah.
But I think that should be a big part of, like, throwing somebody over the side of something or pulling them towards you.
I think that's a viable mechanic. I play with some guys that literally in the middle of a combat, especially like on a ship or something, if you're wearing armor, a very solid strategy is grapple a guy, drag him to the edge of the ship and toss him off, even if you go off with him. I think that, so I think that that's a really good thing. I used to play this Star Wars game. I can't remember what it's called, but I used to force push guys off of balconies all the time because it ended a fight quick. Or force pull them towards me, pull them off a balcony towards me, let them go, and then they drop to their death. I mean, I think that's I think that you should be afraid of these guys.
That's kind of what I want. It's like, I want in the world they are, they're sort of, at least, sort of kind of like the boogeyman. They're so rare. You're likely, to go through your life never seeing one, never meeting one. But, just that very thought of somebody that can, tear apart a skyscraper with his mind is just terrifying.
Like I think of spells like Earth Tremor and Earthquake. Those would be great spells.
I mean, it might be that maybe I bring the power level down and it's just the around these people that makes them seem stronger than they actually are.
Of course, when you make a game like this, you have a party of 4. You have 3 of them in your party. So
yes,
he's
you
really,
do have 3 in your party.
He's really, really classic. I've always wondered how you work around that, because you never want to say no to players when they. Because
you've got to try and make the other ones cool enough that people want to try it. That's the really issue.
Right.
If you've got 3 in one party, it's going to be way harder to hide. So the corporations are going to be after you 24/7.
Right. Well, maybe that's one of the things in your little bio write-up for it. You would say, you don't, if you're one of these psionists or whatever, you don't want to be with other ones. You want to limit your contact with them. Maybe you meet in secret little conclaves every once in a while just to like trade ideas or whatnot, but you don't stay together long because, like you said, that draws the attention to you. That's
Yeah.
one thing you don't want to do.
Let's see if I've got any interesting things. Oh yeah, the sort of the retrocognition and precognition are sort of really hard to get right, I think, mechanically, because they can be sort of really strong. You want to put those sort of hard limits on it.
Mm-hmm.
So something like I think I put, Rogue's uncanny dodge might be something to put in there as like one of their special things that they can do.
Right. It may be why
Yeah.
it might be why they can avoid some damage that they might have taken. I think of a movie, how a movie will have a scene play out where like it'll show someone kind of going through different ways of doing it until they finally do it. Like they think, oh, I'm going to go this way. And they go, wait a second, if I go that way, I'm going to be right in the line of that bullet. So if I turn my head just like this, the bullet will go by. It'll still graze my cheek, but it'll be enough. Yeah, I like that.
There's a couple of Groundhog Day that kind of springs to mind. And what's that? Where he's like, it's a sort of a sci-fi thing with people fighting aliens, and he replays the same like beach landings.
With what's his face, Tom Cruise, right?
Yeah, Tom Cruise. Yeah.
Shit, Day After Tomorrow.
I don't know why I can't remember. It's a great film.
Yeah, it is a really good film, actually. He's dying. Yeah.
I really can't remember it. And also, actually, another Tom Cruise film is Minority Report.
Yep.
With
they got the
pre-crime.
Yeah.
That was actually an okay film.
So this is what I'm thinking, though. That is so limited, though.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think the important thing is that's why I would say it's like one class with these archetypes. So if you choose that archetype, that's like one of their powers that they get is that precognition type stuff that you could build into it. Because when you look at the game, when you choose a class, like as a cleric, you get like, what is it, 3? You class abilities get one at level 3. So there you go. And then they could still use other.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, for me, it didn't feel right again. It's one of those things like, this doesn't quite feel right to me. Like, a telekinetic guy suddenly seeing into the future just doesn't seem
right. So that wouldn't be hit. They wouldn't have that ability. That would be something. Well, specifically
I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're being able to mix and match, then some of the sort of lower ones, like, I can see the last person who touched this object or something. I don't know. It's not the same kind of thing as throbbing an object. I don't know. It just doesn't sit with it.
So what I would do is I would make sure to limit those to characters or characters that choose that path. Limit like the precognition to the
I think having a separate path for each type works better for me.
Right. So they'll all have some similarity in what they could in things.
Yeah, they'll be it'll be sort of at level 2 you get an awesome ability. That's relevant to your particular discipline. Like I think I've written down for the electrokinesis guy, I've written down Thunder Punch. Basically, charge up a bunch of energy, punch somebody in the head, they explode. That kind of thing. Yep. Or I got the telekinesis is just control a bunch of objects, throw them at wherever you want, or pull them towards you. Or
I think of what is that dagger one? That dagger. Like
I know what you mean. Or like cloud of blades or something. Whatever it's called.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
I think that's a great example of one.
Like maybe 5 objects. Maybe like you can pick out all the guns that are being pointed at you and pull them all towards you.
Yep.
Classic Star Wars move.
Yep.
I want it to be that sort of awesome and level up with you, that particular ability. I thought that would be cool. Your one awesome thing that sort of levels up. I haven't actually thought of like any sort of cool ones for the other ones, other types. I just got really stuck, and I kind of just went away from it for a while while I was doing some work. Cloud of daggers. That's it.
Yeah, Cloud of Daggers. That's one that you could, definitely put up. So rather than daggers, maybe they grab a bunch of loose debris and they spin it around. They use it as a way to like hold off it, pursuit or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think after I've got all my assignments done in a couple of days, I will get this into a document and I might be able to squeeze in and I'll share it with you and you can try and run something if you want.
Yeah.
If you've got time, and I'll try and play a couple of games in January.
Yes. I was just telling Drake Warren today that I thought my January was going to be fairly wide open, and it's amazing how crunch it already is. And we're, a weekend?
Yeah, yeah. It's we're hopefully going to have our game soon, maybe.
Yep.
See if I think it's just waiting on Chris.
Yeah, I'm going to talk with Chris, so I will light a fire into him.
Like a yo, come and get murdered in a church.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's not a church now.
No, it's good.
It was a church.
Yeah, it was a church. Yeah. But one thing I'll show up before we stop is.
Oh. You're across the pond, and I still have not gotten my copy yet.
It's because your land is frozen.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'd hate to be a postman in this weather that you're having.
Right on.
But,
yes, exactly.
It's even better in person. This thing, I've had the PDF for a while, and it's just not as good as having. Just look at it.
Yeah, I love the art. The art
just
is great.
Gone like full out with it, and it's great. It's a 2-page spread. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very happy with the stuff that the AbTab guys put out. They put some good thought into it, for sure.
I'm excited for Deadman when that comes out in a year's time or whatever.
This wouldn't be 2018 if I did not say I'm going to disappear sometime in mid 2018 when I start reading the new Warhammer that comes out from Cubicle 7. I love their product. I love their product for Adventures in Middle Earth, and they've done great with it. So when I found out they got the license for Warhammer, and they were it's coming out sometime late this year. Yeah,
I'm excited for that. And was it the Stars of That Number revised edition came out as well?
Yeah, I got a buddy. I'm meeting up with him this coming Saturday, and we're going to be chatting about that.
Such a good game.
Yeah, he just started a campaign, and I'm going to pick his brain.
I love the psychers in that too. That's fun. They're very sort of simple but awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think we've gone off on a big tangent, so that's probably all we can say about Spire. Yeah. Well, you've given Lee, a lot of neat ideas and feedback, so it's gonna be super helpful. Rekindle the fire kind of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, if anyone project 2018, Harry, let's get some good Spire action happening.
Yeah, we'll see. Just gonna settle on doing some world building as well, not just mechanics.
Let me tell you something. Something I've taken away from playing in some Harbinger games and running some Harbinger games. They were building the mechanics of the characters and stuff, and with a premise behind it, much like you have with the Spire, and let people play test it, and they're going to create some of that stuff for you.
I just want some of it down,
Yeah. Yep.
I think I've got a good amount. I can definitely run something. I just want just that little bit more. A couple of names generated, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Right. Well, if anyone has any awesome ideas that I can steal, please put them down in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're up to 140 or so since I last looked, which is awesome.
Nice.
So yeah, hopefully join us. Next time, whenever that is. You never know.
We're like Attack from the Shadows. That's what we're calling it. We're gonna call our videos Attack from the Shadows because that's where they are. They come.
Right. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. And we'll see you next time.